Joining me now is Howard Buffett. He is, of course, the son of Warren Buffett, but he's much more than that. He's an award-winning executive producer of Virunga and The River and the Wall, New York Times bestselling author of multiple important books, including 40 Chances, Finding Hope in a Hungry World, and Our 50-State Border Crisis, How the Mexican Border Fuels the Drug Epidemic Across America. He's also the chairman and CEO of the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, which since its founding in 1999 is focused on two main areas, food security and conflict mitigation, which are issues that have risen to the forefront in Ukraine because of that brutal invasion. Now, last year, Howard donated nearly $150 million to humanitarian aid efforts in Ukraine. This year, the foundation plans to double that, dedicating nearly $300 million. Now, since Russia's full-fledged invasion last February, Howard has visited Ukraine 7 times, including 2 times to the front lines. As you can see, he's also an accomplished photographer. He's documented his visits. And the one thing I didn't say about you is you're a farmer.
Yes, sir.
So when it comes to food and grain and things that Ukraine depends on, you understand that pretty intimately. So let's just start with this last visit. We're going to show some images from it. You were there also with Richard Branson.
Yes.
Both of you have pledged a lot of money to this.
Yes.
Tell me what you saw that they need.
Well, Ukraine, first of all, this is a war on civilians. It really is. It's a war on civilians, on agriculture, on global food security, democracy, freedom, sovereignty. So when you take all that together, it means they need a lot of help. So they need help on the front lines of newly liberated areas in terms of food assistance. They need help with civilians who are going to need prosthetics. They need help with supporting the war crimes and crimes against humanity in terms of documentation and investigation. And then probably the largest thing where they're going to need help, and unfortunately it's going to take a long time, is demining. Yep. They say that almost 30% of Ukraine is subject to landmines. And of course, there's all kinds of different landmines that Russia has left behind. But when they retreat from an area, they mine it. And, mines are indiscriminate in terms of who they affect. So you're going to have a huge impact on the civilian population.
You name a lot of things that are really interesting because they're not things that are covered by government military assistance, right? We give military aid, but it's a World War I, World War II trench warfare in the East. People are losing limbs.
Oh, I met with a young man. I can tell you 2 quick stories. I met with a young man, Arthur, about 10 days ago. He's 14 years old. He's just like any other teenager. He's in the wrong place at the wrong time. A missile hits. The shrapnel takes his left arm off.
Wow.
His whole life is different, right? And then I met with Dennis, who was fighting in Bakhmut, lost both his legs and his left arm. And the guy's attitude is amazing. And a young woman I met, 19 years old, lost her life, like she wants to go back and fight on the front lines. The impact of this on thousands, tens of thousands of people in terms of, and it's trauma, it's future productivity. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing that people have to understand is Russia doesn't play by any rules. So there's no international law that they care about. There's no, it's all some of the inhumanity that you're starting to see, the actions against people are really hard to understand.
Yeah, and as you said, it is a war on civilians. One of the things that's really interesting that you understand very well because you're a farmer, you have a farm in southern Illinois. The Ukrainians are farmers. They are first and foremost farmers. They are producers of various agricultural crops and grains. And for now, they've been able to get a lot of it out because of an agreement that between them and Russia and the world that allows them to ship this grain out through the Black Sea. That agreement may end on May 18th. Russia has continued to say that may stop. That's not just bad for the Ukrainians. That's bad for the world.
Well, think of it this way. Pre-war, Russia and Ukraine exported 12% of all the calories consumed in the world.
Wow.
That's a huge amount, okay? They're also huge exporters in corn and wheat and, a number of things. So if the Black Sea Initiative is not continued, it's going to have a huge impact globally. 1 in 3 families right now are food insecure in Ukraine. But it goes well beyond that. David Beasley, who just left the World Food Program, last year said that in Eastern Africa, just to give you an idea, the food basket for a family went up 55%.
Right.
Well, you can't increase that amount in your food budget across the world, especially in places like Africa, and think that that's not going to lead to additional instability and conflict.
And we're seeing that today. Right now in Sudan, we are seeing continued instability. In Yemen, we're seeing continued instability. In both cases, there are hungry people who
Absolutely.
can't get the food that they're looking for. Most of my viewers don't have the resources that you and Richard Branson have. You have been deployed you've been instructed to deploy your very big resources to certain things around the world. What do my viewers who care about what happens in Ukraine, what can they do?
Well, there's some great 501c3, which means they're registered here with the IRS. There's some great organizations that are Ukrainian as well. Superhumans, which does prosthetics, they are a 501c3 now. They're helping civilians and veterans, but they're helping people get their lives back. So you could support prosthetics. You can support humanity, food aid on both the front lines and across Ukraine. But there's a number of organizations that are supporting getting food out to people. So I think the food assistance is probably number one.
Yeah.
And then if you have a little bit more money, there's a continuing need to support the investigation and documentation of crimes against humanity. So there's some really key things people can do.
There are groups that do that, including Yevgeny Vindman, Alexander Vindman's brother, who is a part of that group that is looking into getting that documentation together. Let's talk a little about you've gone 7 times. You're going back 2 more times?
3 times.
3 times this year. What's your sense of optimism about it? The spirit that you saw in the Ukrainian people. When you are there, you get the impression they're going to win this war.
Well, I'd look at it 2 different ways. One is, I was in Ukraine in 1991 and was part of the Soviet Union in February of 1991. The streets were bare. You couldn't buy much. People were not very friendly or happy. I saw, and I would use last August as a great example. In the summertime, driving on a Sunday in the park in Kyiv, you've got people playing the guitar, you've got music going, you got kids playing. I mean, there's more hope in the middle of a war in Kyiv today than there was when it was part of the Soviet Union. So they are determined.
Yeah.
Ukrainians are not going to go backwards. They're not going to give up freedom. Okay, so they're going to fight until the last person standing, right? However, we've given enough for the Ukrainians to fight, but we've not given them enough to win. That's not a strategy. So we're going to have to step this up along with Europe and figure out what is it going to take. I don't think it's hard to figure out what it takes, but we're going to have to give Ukraine what it takes to be successful.
Howard, my friend, good to see you. Thank you for coming this way. I know it was an early start for you to get here, but thank you. We always appreciate it.
Anything for you, Ali.
Thank you, Howard. Howard Buffett is the chairman and CEO of the Howard G. Buffett Foundation.